Welcome back, everyone. Grab your popcorn because today's story is packed with shocking twists, emotional moments, and secrets that change everything. Let's jump right in. I have to tell you, the moment I heard that Jocelyn had disappeared and Carly never seriously turned to Sonny for help, I stopped and thought about it for quite a while. The more I sat with it, the more it bothered me. Not because Carly and Sonny haven't had their problems. Heaven knows those two have been through enough breakups, betrayals, reunions, and heartbreaks to fill an entire library of soap opera history. What bothers me is that when fear enters the picture, especially fear involving your child, old wounds usually become a lot less important. As a father, and frankly, as someone who's watched General Hospital for years, I find it hard to believe that Sonny would not have been one of the first people Carly contacted. That's what makes this storyline so interesting to me. It isn't really about whether Sonny could have found Jocelyn faster. It isn't even about whether Sonny was the perfect person to involve. It's about what Carly's decision says regarding where she stands emotionally. When I look at Carly these days, I see a woman who has spent years trying to prove that she can survive anything on her own, and in many ways I admire that. Life has knocked her down more times than most people could count. She has lost relationships, endured family crises, survived danger, and somehow managed to keep moving forward. That's not easy. But there is a fine line between strength and stubbornness. And sometimes I think Carly crosses it without even realizing it. I've known people like that in real life. Maybe you have too. They become so accustomed to carrying every burden themselves that they stop asking for help altogether. At first, it looks like confidence. Eventually, it starts looking like isolation. That's exactly what I see happening here. The thing about Sonny is that people often focus on his flaws first. And to be fair, there are plenty of flaws to discuss. Nobody is pretending that Sonny is a saint. He has made terrible decisions. He has hurt people. He has spent years operating in a world filled with violence and danger. Many viewers are exhausted by him, and I completely understand why. But if there's one thing Sonny has consistently shown throughout the years, it's loyalty toward the people he considers family. That's why I keep coming back to the same question. Why wasn't he involved? Even if Carly no longer trusts Sonny the way she once did, surely she knows what he would be willing to do for Jocelyn. This is a man who would walk straight into a storm if he believed one of his loved ones needed him. He wouldn't sit around waiting for permission. He wouldn't worry about whether someone liked him. He would simply act. And honestly, that's what makes Carly's choice feel so unusual. Part of me wonders if this isn't really about Jocelyn at all. Maybe it's about Carly trying to prove something to herself. Maybe she wanted to show that she no longer needs Sonny to solve her problems. Maybe she wanted to demonstrate that her life can function independently of the man who dominated so much of it for so many years. If that's true, then I think Carly may have let her emotions cloud her judgment. I've always believed that maturity means knowing when to put personal feelings aside for the greater good. Sometimes the smartest decision isn't the most comfortable one. Sometimes it's the one that requires you to call the person you least want to call because they're still the best option available. Back where I grew up, there was an old saying, you don't leave your strongest horse in the barn when the storm is coming. Whether people like Sonny or not, he remains one of the most resourceful people in Port Charles. Ignoring that fact during a crisis feels less like strength and more like pride. Another aspect of this story that caught my attention is how much Carly and Jocelyn resemble each other. The similarities are becoming harder and harder to ignore. Both women are intelligent. Both are fiercely protective of the people they love. Both believe they can handle almost any situation by themselves. And perhaps most importantly, both have a habit of making huge decisions without fully consulting the people around them. Watching them sometimes feels like looking at two versions of the same person separated by a generation. Jocelyn has inherited many of Carly's best qualities. Unfortunately, she may have inherited some of the dangerous ones too. When fans online started pointing out that both Carly and Joss tend to charge forward without asking for help, I couldn't help nodding my head. There is some truth there. They often operate as if they alone can carry the weight of every crisis. It creates exciting drama, but it also creates problems that could have been avoided. And let's talk about Jason for a moment. I've seen countless debates among viewers over whether Jason is really any different from Sonny. Some fans see Jason as the dependable hero who always arrives when things fall apart. Others argue that his hands are just as dirty as Sonny's, if not dirtier. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. What fascinates me isn't the argument itself. It's the fact that Carly appears more comfortable relying on Jason than on Sonny. Think about that for a second. There was a time when Sonny and Carly were practically inseparable. Their connection survived events that would have destroyed most relationships many times over. Yet now, when a serious crisis unfolds, Sonny appears to be standing on the outside, looking in. That tells me something has fundamentally changed. Whether Carly admits it or not, her actions suggest that she no longer sees Sonny as her first line of support. That's a dramatic shift for a relationship that once formed the emotional backbone of this entire show. The saddest part is that Sonny may not even realize how far he has fallen in Carly's world until it's too late. I can almost imagine the moment when he learns that major decisions were made, plans were formed, and people were mobilized without anyone bothering to call him. For a man who places such value on family and loyalty, that kind of realization would cut deeper than any enemy attack. That's why I don't think the consequences of this story are finished yet. In fact, I think we're only seeing the beginning. The missing Jocelyn storyline may eventually come to an end. Questions will be answered. Secrets will be exposed. The immediate danger will pass. But emotional damage tends to linger much longer than physical danger. The real fallout could come afterward, when Sonny and Carly are forced to confront what this situation revealed about their relationship. Because once someone learns that they weren't considered important enough to call during a crisis, it's very difficult to forget. And if Sonny eventually confronts Carly about that decision, I honestly don't know what explanation she could offer that would make everything right again. The more I think about it, the more convinced I become that Carly may have made a mistake far bigger than she realizes. Not because Sonny had all the answers, not because Sonny would have magically fixed everything, but because she shut the door on someone who, despite all their complicated history, would have dropped everything to help. Sometimes the biggest mistakes aren't the choices we make. They're the people we choose to leave out. And from where I'm sitting, that may be exactly what General Hospital is trying to show us right now. As I think about it, the biggest question isn't whether Sonny could have helped find Jocelyn. It's why Carly didn't turn to him in the first place. One fan made a great point when they said, Sonny and Carly have always defended each other no matter how their relationship ended. That's what makes this situation feel so unusual. Sonny has resources, connections, and a long history of stepping up when Carly's family is in trouble. For years, that was simply what he did. Maybe that's what has changed. Perhaps Carly no longer sees Sonny as the first person she can rely on. Or maybe she's trying so hard to prove she can handle everything herself that she overlooked someone who would have helped without hesitation. I also miss the days when Carly, Sonny, Jason, and Michael felt like a united front. Whether viewers loved them or not, they always seemed connected. Lately, that connection feels weaker, and this storyline may be highlighting just how much things have changed. Still, this is Port Charles, and old loyalties rarely stay buried forever. If Jocelyn's situation gets worse, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sonny step in sooner or later. The bond between him and Carly may not be what it once was, but I have a feeling this story isn't finished revealing where they truly stand. For now, I'm curious what everyone else thinks. Did Carly make a mistake by leaving Sonny out, or is this proof that she's finally moved beyond needing him?